What's up guys? So in this video we are going to talk about data types in JavaScript. So we have already started with the introduction of JavaScript in my previous video where we have learned how to install JavaScript and get started with the JavaScript on your system, right? So if you haven't seen that video yet, I would request you all to go and check that video out so that your machines are all set up for JavaScript development. Now in this video let's talk about data types in JavaScript. So before we get started with the data types, uh, if you are coming from Java background or C++ background, you must be aware of what data types are. In case you don't have any idea about data types, let me tell you that data types represent the kind of data you want to store in any particular variable. Let's suppose you want to store a numeric value into a variable. So the data type of that particular value will be number or something related to number. It depends on the kind of programming language you are using. For Java, there are integers and shorts and bytes. In JavaScript, we only have one kind of numeric data type, that is number, and we are going to talk about it in later part of this video. So data type represents the type of value you want to contain in a variable and what kind of operations that can be performed on that particular variable. So before we get started with the data types, let's look at these three important points. First one is that JavaScript is a loosely typed or dynamic language. What it means is that you don't have to define a type of variable before using it. Like if you want to store a numeric value into a variable, you don't have to define the type of the value that variable is going to contain beforehand or ahead of time. Just in Java, we are using int I equals to 42. So we are defining the type before assigning the value 42 to the variable, right? So in JavaScript, we don't do that. So if you want to have a practical look at what I'm talking about, let's just switch to Node.js and test it out. Okay, so let's suppose I want to store a value 42 in variable a. So I can just write var a equals to 42, and that is it. Now a contains 42. I don't have to define the type of a as number before assigning value 42 to the variable a. And if we are going to, okay, so we can just check that whether a contains 42 or not. So type a, press enter, and as you can see that it contains the value 42. Okay, so the second point is the same which I have described previously, and you can check the type of any variable using the type of operator. So let's switch back to Node.js again, and if we want to check the type of variable a, we should write type of an a. So as you can see that the type of a is number. Now if you want to reassign a with a string value, let's suppose you reassign a with this string value and try to check that what a contains, that a contains a string value. And now if you are going to type of a, it will tell you that it contains a string value, right? So you don't have to declare the type of variable before assigning the value to it. So that is it. So let's get back. Okay, so there are 6 data types in JavaScript: numbers, strings, booleans, objects, undefined, and null. And we are going to talk about all of these 6 data types in detail in following slides. So let's get to it. Okay, so let's talk about numbers. So unlike other programming language, JavaScript has only one number type, that is number. Okay, and these numbers are represented as 64-bit floating point, and there are no separate type of numeric data types like there are integers, shorts, bytes, in Java, but there is only one numeric type or numeric data type in JavaScript, that is number. Okay, so and numbers can also have exponential parts. So if you are going to write 2e3, it means 2000, like 2 the part before this e multiplied by 10 raised to the power the part before after e. Okay, so 2 multiplied by 10 to the power 3 is equals to 2000. So that is how exponential numbers are represented in JavaScript. In addition to that, JavaScript also offers three symbolic kind of numeric values. So that is infinity, minus infinity, and not a number. Not a number represents that the number or the value that a particular variable is containing is not a valid number. So let's test about this number data type. So let's switch back to Node.js. Okay, and let's redefine this variable 42. Okay, if you are going to do type of a, so that's a number, right? Now you can assign minus infinity or plus infinity to any variable. So let's define a variable b and assign minus infinity. Okay, so if we are going to query about b, it will tell you that this contains minus infinity. Okay, much in a similar way, positive infinity can be defined, and you can also assign not a number to a variable as well. Okay, now if you are going to check the type of not a number, it will tell you, okay, I messed up, type of not a number, it will tell you it is of number data type, and type of infinity is also number type, and minus infinity is also of number type. Okay, so let's test some more experiments using numbers. So let's suppose I create a new variable and do this 9 divided by 0. So if you know the mathematics behind this computation, you will have the idea that this is not a valid arithmetic calculation. A number cannot be divided by 0. Okay, so let's see what JavaScript computes in this case. Okay, now try to print the value of d, so it is infinity. Okay, so that is the value that is represented by this 9 divided by 0, it is infinite. Much in a similar way as we do it in mathematics, right? So guys, that is about the number data type, and let's move on to the string data type. The string is a set of elements of 16-bit unsigned integer values. Like if you have a name Rajat, so Rajat contains 5 individual elements. Okay, so and each element in a string occupies a position in a string. So R occupies position number 0 in the string Rajat. Okay, plus strings are immutable. So once a string is defined, you cannot change it, right? So, but there are certain ways to create new strings out of the immutable string. Let's also, strings have some useful methods, like you can query the length, which will tell you how many characters does this string contain, including spaces. Okay, and then there are certain other useful functions like to uppercase, to lowercase as well. Then new strings can be made using concatenation operator, right? So, and there is this interesting case that if you concatenate individual elements using this concatenation edit operator and try to check it against a combined string, it will tell you that these strings are same. It means that if the result of any expression is same as the result of another expression, JavaScript will tell you that these strings are same. So let's test it, play with some string as well. So we are going to create a new string, that is budget. Now if you want to create a new string with my surname as well, so I would do something like what f full name equals to e plus and space and substance. So full name will contain my full name, so that is it, the just substance. If you try to check the type of full name, it is of type string, and if you query the length of full name, it is 12 because it contains 12 characters including white spaces. The third data type is the Boolean data type. It represents a logical entity, like whether a condition is true or false, or something is true or false. So it can only have two values like true and false. Let's test it out and let's define a variable is absent. Let's suppose it represents whether the student is present or not. So we can write it as, let's suppose he is not absent today, so we can represent it as is absent false. So is absent will store false as the value. Okay, and if you can check the type of is absent, it will tell you it is of type Boolean. It is of type Boolean. So Boolean does not contain so much of a detail. It's just a way to represent whether something contains a truthy value or a falsy value. And now, talking about truthy values and falsy values in JavaScript, there are 6 kinds of falsy values. The first one is the blank string. The second one is 0. The third one is the literal false itself. The fourth one is null. The fifth one is undefined. And the sixth one is not a number. Okay. The fourth data type, which is important data type, is object. Object can be considered as a collection of properties. Properties can be removed or added even after the creation of the object itself. Now, object contains keys and values. Key is the value that can be either a symbol or a string value, and using this key, the value which it contains can be retrieved, right? So we will have a look at the example of defining object itself. Values can be of any type. They can be of number, they can be of type Boolean, and they can be of type other object as well. Plus, objects are always mutable. It means that you can change the data and the state of any object at any point of time. So let's check how you can define objects in JavaScript. Let's define an object literal. Object literals. Let's define an object literal for obj equals to. This is the simplest object which does not contain anything or any property as of now. Now, if you want to add a new property to this object, you would do object dot name equals to Rajat. So we have now added a new property name to this object, and that property is identified by this key value name, and the value of that property identified by the key name is Rajat. So it contains the data of data type string with value Rajat in the key name. Okay. Now, if we want to append yet another property to this object, we will write age and 29. Okay. Yes, I'm 29 years old. So that's a fun fact. Alright. So now if we are going to list the object, it will tell us that it contains name and age. These are the two properties of this object name. Now there are two types of notation for defining properties of any object. First one is the dot notation, which we have already seen. The second one is the square bracket notation. So now let's define a new property, interest, using this bracket notation. And again the same thing, we are going to allocate a value and let's say CS, and that is it. Right. Okay. Now we have created a new property or key, interest, which contains the value CS and it is of type string. So let's list out the object again. So this is the current state of this object. Now we can delete the property of any object as well. So if we want to delete this age variable or age property, we will delete this property using delete age. So object.age, and if the operation is successful, it will tell you that the property has been deleted using this true as a feedback. Okay. So now try to list out the object, and as you can see that age property is long gone. Okay. Now as we have already seen that object can contain other objects, right, as a property. So let's test out how we can store object as a sub property of any other object. So let's create a new object, for master object, and let's define the object little again, name equals to. So this is a new kind of notation, and here we are defining the object using the letter. So this is a new kind of notation, and in the previous case we defined a simple plain object, that is the empty object, and added properties after the object is defined. Here we are adding properties right into the definition of the object literal. Okay, so the notation for that is the one I am writing as of now. So if this will represent the key, the colon is the separator, and after that you can write the value. So let's write a value master. Okay, and to separate properties you need to put comma in between, put a comma, next line, and you can create any property. Let's name it holder, and assign the previous object to it, and that is it. So we have defined a master object with two properties, name and holder. Name holds the value master, and holder holds another object as a value. So let's list out what does master contain. So as you can see, master contains these two values, and the value holder itself contains a whole object, and which in turn has its own properties. So if you want to list out the nested properties of any dependent object, you can do it in this way. So master object holder dot name. So it will print out Rajat, because that is what the name property contains, right? And you can similarly use this square bracket notation, holder name. Again, the value is same. So that is all about object data types. Let's move on to the undefined data type. Undefined data type is a property of a global object. So in JavaScript, you get this global object. Global object is a collection of properties that is predefined from the environment, and all of those properties are available to you in your program. So Node.js defines some other kind of environment, and your browser defines some other kind of environment. So that depends, and that can vary. But yes, you will always have the access to this global object. So undefined is a property of that global object. Now, undefined represents the variable that has not assigned a value. Okay, so you can define a variable, but you can defer the assignment of any value to it, and before the value is assigned, it will tell you that the variable is of type undefined. Plus, functions also return undefined in case you are not returning a value in that function. Okay, so let's test these two things what we have talked about. Let's define a variable var rt, and just don't assign any value to it. And as you can see, let's try to print out the value of this variable rt, and as you can see that rt is not yet defined. So rt has been assigned this value undefined to. Okay, now let's try to define a function var fg equals to function console.log. That's a simple function which does not return anything and just prints hi to the console. Okay. Okay, I missed this. Okay, so let's call fg. Okay, so fg printed this hi but did not return anything. So we got this value undefined in that function. It is the second point what we have talked about, right? We can also test whether the value of a variable is undefined at any point of time or not using this operation. Like type of rt will tell that it is of type undefined, and we also have undefined as the global property of a global object, right? So we can test that rt is not yet defined using the following operation: type of rt, and it is going to print out undefined. So we can test it or check it against the string undefined, and as you can see that it will print out true. It means that we can check that whether a variable is defined or not using type of operator and using this statement. So let's move on to another data type, that is null. Null represents the absence of any object value. Okay, and null is of type object. You must be wondering that why is the type of null is object. It is due to some legacy reasons that the type of null is object. Okay, so let's try out some examples of null as well. So we can write for new variable nv equals to null. Okay, so nv contains null. It means that it does not hold any value as of now. Okay, and you can try to check type of nv. It will tell you that it is of type object. Since null is of type object, we can also check type of null literal as well. Type of null is an object, right? So that is it about the data types in JavaScript, guys. I hope you have learned quite a lot in this video. If you have any suggestions regarding how to improve the quality of this video, please do comment or write me a mail at rajat@rajatstudio.com so that I can bring out even more beneficial videos to you guys so that you can learn JavaScript easily and efficiently. Okay, and I have also included some exercises which you can practice based on the topics we have talked about. So let's see what those exercises are. So I would want you guys to figure out the difference between null and undefined, and in what scenarios the undefined variable data type is used and in what scenario the null data type is used. Plus, how would you test that a variable is defined and has a not null value? Suppose if I want to check that the variable name is defined and thus contain a non-null value, how would I do that? So try to figure these problems out on your own. It will give you an opportunity to improve, to explore on your own and learn several more things about data types in JavaScript. And I have also included or I have also uploaded this slide on SlideShare, which I will be sharing the link of in the video description. So in case you want to download this slide, you can download from the SlideShare link. I hope you have enjoyed this video, and please do share your valuable feedback of how to improve. Thank you all.